Last time, I barely survived 100 days in a Minecraft survival horse world. We had heartbreak, near-death experiences. Matter of fact, you can actually just take the near out of that. Tornadoes, a very, very unfortunate run-in with some lava. But this time around, we've got 200 days to go bigger, bolder, and wilder. This is how I survived 200 days in a Minecraft horse world. I logged back into the world exactly how I'd left it, peacefully overlooking the ranch I'd built in my first 100 days. Of course, that calm never lasts, so just like that, day 101 began. One of my biggest goals this stretch was breeding horses, but more horses meant more mouths to feed, so I spent the entire day expanding the farm. I worked straight into the night, and that's when I remembered I didn't have Boots, my trusty cat, with me then and there to scare off creepers, because the second I stepped away from the farm to head to bed. Yeah, way to start this challenge off with a literal bang, I guess. Anyways, day 102, I farmed and crafted loads of Timothy and alfalfa bales for my trusty horses, Phoenix and Willow, who were very pleased by the all-you-can-eat buffet that poofed before their eyes. Come morning, I realized I couldn't do this alone anymore. I needed to invest in upgrades. If there was only a mod that could help automate farming. There is? And with the cutest little helpers? Sign me up. So with a hay bale and a pumpkin, I turned this scarecrow, jack-o'-lantern looking thing into a real boy. I made a little army of straw golems and watched as they got to work harvesting my crops. The next day, I had plans to expand the horse stables until I got a dire message from Pebbles the pup. Yeah, no dog on my watch would be on the brink of death this time around because I had done something as silly as neglecting to feed her. That's when it hit me. I never crafted her a Doggy Talents food bowl, so I fixed that immediately. Now I could load it up with food so she'd stop harassing me every 5 minutes. However, today was once again all about Pebbles because, I mean, look how cute she is. Also because I had very much neglected some pretty cool features of the Doggy Talents mod. One being the fact that I can give her talents. Like, hello, it's literally in the mod name. So I spent my 15 points she had gained, giving Pebbles some serious upgrades, blocking monster attacks for me, doing extra damage per bite, hurting livestock, and even sniffing out valuable ores. I also set her to aggressive mode, so she's officially my tiny fluffy bodyguard, but I couldn't help but think the only thing deadly about her was those puppy dog eyes. Now, yes, I know I was supposed to be building out my stables, but with my new little sidekick, I was determined to get her a friend. If I was asking Pebbles to put her life on the line to be my guard dog, she was going to need some backup, especially on hard mode. So I tacked up Phoenix and set out on our very first adventure of the challenge with one clear goal: grow the wolf pack. And so we searched and searched. And seriously, how hard is it to find a wolf in this game? Although the sightseeing was fun, I was getting salty about wasting 3 precious days on this so far fruitless endeavor. But then, in a quiet taiga biome, there he was. A few bones and a training treat later, meet Pip. Yes, I turned him into a chihuahua because the idea of this tiny little peanut defending me from zombies and trigger-happy skeletons felt both savage and deeply ridiculous. With our new recruit in tow, Phoenix and I headed back to the homestead to introduce Pebbles to her new friend. It was love at first sight. And honestly, I think Pebbles appreciated the upgrade from Boots, who, while beloved, is a bit of a diva and generally prefers to pretend Pebbles does not exist. Day 109 reaffirmed the harsh reality that nothing good lasts forever. I went out to collect crops, fully expecting my straw golem army to be hard at work, only to realize they were gone. That's when I learned these adorable little guys only have a lifespan of about 7 days, unless you feed them wheat. Poor things didn't even get to enjoy a well-earned retirement. I rebuilt the straw golem army, pretended my heart wasn't a little broken, and peace was restored to the fields once more. Though there was plenty of life bustling around the farm, it somehow still felt a little dead. So I decided it was time to liven up this cozy ranch with some proper lighting. So I spent the day, as well as the night, placing light posts and tidying up the landscaping along every path. And this time, with Boots glued to my side to keep any surprise exploding visitors away, my fierce guard dogs also helped chase off everyone else. By the end, the ranch was beginning to feel even more warm, welcoming, and, well, yeah, I only did one path, but it took a lot more time than I thought, okay? The next day, I got to slowly landscaping away on the next path. Safe to say, I was super pleased with how it was coming along, although I ran out of materials quite quickly, so the finishing of the project would have to be postponed to another day. That night, the two biggest paths created a glow of cozy, welcoming light. I even checked on Willow and Phoenix, who, true to form, had polished off their all-you-can-eat buffet and were staring daggers at me to replenish the goodies. I'd been going on and on about adding more stalls to the horse barn, so today felt like the day to finally take the plunge. Problem, materials were running low. First things first, resource gathering. I know, try to contain your excitement. So day 112 was spent as a temporary lumberjack, and thanks to Pebbles, who's, let's be honest, a better miner than me at this point, we scored a lot of iron from a nearby cave without too many heart-stopping creeper moments. Today was divide and conquer day. The plan, split the existing large stalls into 2 brand new ones. Somehow in my head it felt like I was rebuilding the entire barn from scratch, but I fiddled, I rearranged, and I finally got the layout to make sense. By the end of the day, I stepped back, exhausted but proud, thinking, why did literally just splitting a room in half feel like some sort of epic construction project? The next morning, I looked at the other side and said, guess we're doing this again. On my next mission, I traded the ranch life for the ocean life. The mission, forage kelp from the nearest ocean. Back at the ranch, I put the kelp in the furnace to dry and transformed it into durable rubber mats for the stalls. Now it was time to replace that old grass flooring for something far more suitable for the horses. Rubber mats, of course, which I put in each and every stall. By day's end, it felt like we were all the more closer to a proper horse barn. The next day was all about, once again, stable expansion. And I quickly realized this wasn't going to be just a simple one-day task. First up, a hallway to connect the stalls with the rest of the new barn. My next to-do, the feed room. This was a non-negotiable. I needed a proper place for all their supplies, not just a sad little chest. Pebbles and Pip helps by running laps around me and somehow getting in the way every time I was trying to place a block somewhere. 2 days of no shut-eye later, I had a functional feed room. I got a little caught up with the decorating, I'll admit, but finally, I had used my own creativity instead of following a video. Today was all about starting the tack room. Not a flashy project, but one of those that quietly changes everything. So I found proper places for saddles, gave bridles a real home, and slowly began turning the space from a chest into something intentional, which continued into the next day. I fine-tuned even more, adjusted, rearranged, and tweaked until it finally felt right. I was working myself crazy because by night when I looked up, the phantoms had come out to play. I realized Boots wasn't by my side scaring them off for me, so I grabbed her again to have my little guard cat with me, and eventually, with my focus back on the tack room, I was able to make the space fully functional and even, dare I say, cute. Now, the wash stalls were still looming ominously on my to-do list, but that would have to wait for another day because I was officially hitting the hay. After a night's rest, I did not procrastinate. I dove straight into the wash stalls. My goal? Give my horses a proper place to get groomed and tacked up, away from the awkward standing in the fields, which would often lead to a game of tag with them running away while I'm attempting to tack them up. It definitely took some precise block placement, ton of crafting, and of course, few unwelcome visitors, but it wouldn't be Minecraft without them. By nightfall, one of the wash stalls was ready. After that, I decided one wash stall would do because I had other plans for the second stall. Day 123, the rain dawned on me, and I suddenly realized I'd been ignoring a very obvious problem. Message received, so today became roof day. I worked in the rain, but by the end, there was finally cover overhead. Everything felt instantly more finished, more solid, and significantly less damp. Like I said, my plans with the last empty space of the barn had changed. I decided to convert what was supposed to be the second wash stall into a hay shed. So I started by replacing the rubber mats with some stone flooring. Then I crafted a stack of hay bales and just laid them out until the space finally made sense. What was supposed to be a wash stall slowly became something much more practical. It wasn't fancy, but it felt right. The next day, I leaned fully into aesthetics. Somewhere between stacking hay and organizing tools, I decided this storage shed needed a tractor. Is it functional? No. Is it necessary? Also no. But I built it anyway. I also added wheelbarrows, tools, and a few messy storage corners, like a real working barn instead of just a perfect untouched build. On this particular day, the devil was in the details, so I decorated the hallway, filling in the empty stretches and just tying everything together. It was the kind of work you don't notice at first, but once it's done, the whole place feels complete. The barn finally felt like one connected whole, not just a collection of projects. Don't get me wrong, I was exhausted, but the barn, officially next level. Day 127 was supposed to be a training day with Phoenix and Willow, but took a bit of a turn because the sky darkened again. Lightning cracked over the valley as wind tore through the fields, but the ranch held, thanks to our handy weather deflectors. The animals stayed safe. I spent most of the day blanketing and unblanketing the horses and promptly slept through the day. After all the hard work, I needed a break, so I spent the day just playing with the ponies. I even got to test out my new wash stall, which was very functional. A minor life improvement, sure, but a win is a win. My ride with Willow was perfection. She has truly become the sweetest, steadiest mare. Phoenix, not so much yet. But chaos aside, it was exactly the carefree, fun day we all needed. Now came the day to once again expand the dog pack. Pebbles and Pip were going to have a pup. Odd couple, maybe, but a third dog would really round out the ranch crew. First things first, breeding bones. Anyone familiar with the Better Dog mod knows that these are a nightmare to craft. You need rare drops, there's multiple steps, no shortcuts, so I spent the whole day gathering and crafting these elusive breeding bones. What felt like hours of mining, smelting, and resource juggling later, I finally held 2 bones in my hands. Victory. Time for the magic to happen. 1 bone each for Pebbles and Pip, and poof, out came the cutest little wolf pup. Naturally, she became a corgi because, farm dog vibes. I named her Poppy, keeping the P theme alive. Honestly, I couldn't stop grinning. She was so small, literally smaller than Pip. She was the cutest addition to our growing ranch family, and truly these pups became the cutest trio. Baby fever, yeah. I think baby Poppy gave me that. Today marked the official start of my horse empire. So with my little army behind me, expanded stables, and upgraded farm, I finally had the resources, time and space to add one more foal to the herd. No more, no less. I crafted rose feed, a special item required to breed swim horses. I even grabbed my vet check bag to make sure everything was in tip-top shape, then brought Phoenix and Willow out to the same pasture. Love was definitely in the air today. And it indeed was a success. Willow was pregnant, and in just a day or two, a new tiny-hoofed member of the family would arrive. I spent the day anxiously awaiting, preoccupying myself with mundane farm chores. At one point, I checked Willow and saw she was already halfway through her gestation. I literally could not contain myself. I was so excited. To pass the time, I crafted a pink halter and armored pasture blanket, just imagining the little foal trotting around the ranch. It was like waking up on Christmas morning, but dare I say, better. I dashed outside to check on Willow and was greeted by the cutest little chestnut foal standing beside her. And then I took a closer look, revealing something I did not see coming. Twins! At first I was a bit overwhelmed, I'll admit, but my excitement quickly took over. So with my vet check bag in hand, I confirmed Willow had 2 healthy colts. I named them Rusty and Chip and spent the day fawning over them. The twins were still tiny and wobbly, so it was a full-on keep the ranch running smoothly day. Morning was spent milking cows, shearing sheep, and making sure everyone had fresh feed and water. A few wandering pigs had to be rounded up too, with some beetroot, because apparently fences are just a suggestion in their world. This morning started very quietly. The twins were sticking close to Mom in the pasture. Well, I mean, one of the twins. Chip, of course, was already showing signs of trouble. The adventurous one always staying just a little too far and somehow ending up in the axolotl pond. After a quick rescue mission, all was well, and by the end of the day, wow, they had transformed into full-fledged, gorgeous swim horses. I was equal parts proud and panicked because in just a moment I suddenly had double the work. Nonetheless, I put them out to pasture with their dad Phoenix. Now, their coats though, not exactly my style. I grabbed my trusty redstone and lapis ready to cycle through every swim coat in my arsenal. But problem, I only had a few measly pieces of redstone. Clearly this wasn't going to be enough to customize my perfect pair. Looks like this would call for a mining expedition. Mining day came. This was it. My chance to gather the redstone and lapis I desperately needed. I called in my ore-sniffing expert Pebbles to guide the way. I also grabbed her dog bed so we could sleep overnight if the adventure happened to run long. At first, everything went perfectly. Pebbles darted through the tunnels, tail wagging like a pro, sniffing out veins of iron, gold, and yes, glimmering redstone and lapis. I felt unstoppable. The caves twisted and plunged into the darkness, and there was that faint tension, echoing footsteps, distant hisses of mobs, and the louder explosions of them too. But I pushed it aside. Today was about success. Nothing could stop us. And nothing could have prepared me for what awaited us in a ravine I stumbled upon. I had ventured down it with visions of treasures lining the cave walls, waiting in the dark, never imagining the danger that lurked. And at first everything went well, when suddenly, ambush. Skeletons, zombies, even a rare witch, that's how unlucky I was, poured from every shadow surrounding me. I swung, blocked, and ran, but there were just too many. Pebbles, ambitious and fearless as ever, leapt forward without hesitation. My heart hammered as I tried to pull her back, but there was nothing I could do. In a final, blazing act of bravery, she charged the remaining mobs, giving me a narrow window to escape. I saw her fall. Once my health regained, I found myself very alone. I wandered the twisting tunnels, searching every corner, retracing my steps again and again. I tried to respawn her using the bed. Really shouldn't have broken it because it must have disconnected her connection to it. After 2 agonizingly desperate days, it was time to return to the ranch. I had to come to terms with the fact that my little buddy since day 3 was gone. Poppy, grown now, sniffed around for her mom. Little Pip circled anxiously, confused and searching for his friend. Pebbles was gone, but her courage and her loyalty left a mark that would never fade. By her favorite digging spot, I placed a small marker, a piece of the ranch to honor the dog who had given everything to protect this place. Deep down, I knew her bravery would never be forgotten. Tomorrow, the work had to continue for Pebbles, for the farm she loved, and for the courage she showed when it mattered most. Heart heavy, I had to keep moving. Today was all about giving Pip and Poppy a proper home. In honor of everything these dogs had been through, they deserved some upgrades. I started laying the foundation for a sturdy, cozy dog house, big enough for both, but still snug. By sunset, the frame was up, and I could already picture the two of them curled up inside, safe and warm. By the next day, the doghouse was finally coming to a finish, complete with beds, a bath, and a food bowl. Plus all the cute decor. Pip and Poppy immediately explored every crook and cranny, racing from corner to corner before I assigned them each a bed and collapsing in a satisfied nap. After watching them settle, I took a quiet walk to Pebbles' marker. She deserved more than just a little spot in the dirt. With care, I dug her a proper grave, placing the marker and surrounding it with flowers and some sand from the beach in honor of the day I found her. It was her honorary spot in the doghouse. This way, she could always be with her family. Day 142 was all about Rusty and Chip finally training my very green colts and turning them into perfect additions to the herd. But before we dive into the training, it was time for the moment I'd been dreading, deciding on their coats. With my hard-earned redstone and lapis at the ready, I carefully cycled through every swim option until I landed on my custom designs. Rusty got the strawberry roan. Chip, the more spirited of the two, became a red roan Tobiano. Bold, flashy, and also available on my Ko-Fi shop for anyone who wants to deck out their own herd. I couldn't believe my luck. I had just enough redstone for both. I breathed a huge sigh of relief. No more mining trips for now. Then came the fun part. They were a little wild at first, especially Chip, who seemed determined to test every single limit. But patience paid off, slowly but surely. After everything we'd been through, I wanted to make sure my dogs were safer going forward. I spent the day investing talent points into armor and defense for Pip and Poppy, turning them into much sturdier little guardians. I crafted both of them full sets of iron armor, made me feel like I was finally learning from my past mistakes. On day 144, I decked out Rusty in his pink blanket and a halter and used Bambi's old pasture blanket, armored it up, and paired it with Chip's yellow halter. Pink and yellow, surprisingly a winning combo. After recent events, the ranch was starting to feel muted, so I decided it was time to add a little color. I saddled up Willow and set out in search of new life for the ranch, with Poppy trailing behind us. We were looking for a parrot. Yep, a feathered friend, and not the chicken kind because we already have plenty of those. It was quite the journey. Dense forests, open lavender plains, and finally, faint green canopy of a jungle in the distance. I set up camp under the massive jungle trees and began constructing a makeshift base. But then, the weather turned. Great timing. I grabbed Willow, leading her close to shelter, when out of the corner of my eye, I spotted the tiniest turtle. It felt like the world had paused. And then I looked over my shoulder. A massive tornado was forming, frozen for just a heartbeat. Eventually, instinct kicked in, but it was too late. The tornado's pull was just too strong, so I had to hop off Willow and unclip the lead in a last-ditch effort to save Willow. The night became a blur of chaos. I was flung around inside the whirling storm, desperately hoping Poppy and Willow were safe. Eventually, I was rudely chucked into the ocean. In the dark, churning waters, a sudden magical moment appeared. A colossal whale glided by, serene and majestic. its presence calming the storm around me for just a heartbeat, before realizing it was still dark and I didn't know where the rest of my animal crew was. I decided to rest, saving the search for Willow and Poppy for daylight. And immediately, the Minecraft gods decided to greet me with an arrow to the face. I really don't know what I did to displease them. After taking care of that friendly feller, I quickly located Willow, but more skeletons came charging, forcing me to retreat once again. Then, through the chaos, I spotted her, little Poppy alive, thank goodness. I rounded up Willow, and together we pressed on in search of our feathered friend. Along the way, I saw the sweetest sleeping camel. And then we came upon the jungle. Unfortunately, the tornado was ripping through it, so I would have to wait it out. Lucky for me, just as soon as I said that, the tornado fizzled out. And we headed into the jungle, greeted by more strange creatures, like this pig thing that was sleeping. Very cute. Except it wasn't. I went up to say hi, and then it immediately started lunging at Willow, who panicked and bucked wildly. Lesson learned, even the cutest things can be deadly in the jungle. Finally, after navigating the twisting, torn up foliage, a flash of red, a little bird. I tried to tame it, but it vanished before I could blink, and then miraculously, it returned with a friend this time. I named one Jinx because honestly, after this adventure, that felt right, and the other Binks. With my new flock secured and the storm fading behind us, we rode back toward the ranch. After a little snooze, I got to working making the new members of the flock, Jinx and Binks, feel at home. First, name tagging the two of them, and then creating their own little parrot home. A quaint parrot cage hanging from a cherry blossom tree outside, overlooking the lake. It might not be the rainforest, but they seemed pretty pleased with the view. After all the crazy, it was time for a simple chore day. With double the horses came double the responsibility. Watering, feeding grain and hay, and mucking out the pastures had me knee-deep in, well, let's just say it was a very poo-heavy morning. While I was at it, I added slow feeders to their stalls, just so they would have access to hay if I was a little slow to turn them out in the morning, or there was a storm that they needed to stay in for all day. Then came training day for Rusty and Chip. And just because they share a birthday doesn't mean they have to share a training session together. So I took Rusty out first, but just as we reached the bridge, I knew something was wrong. Large sections of it were torn apart. My first real warning sign. The fields were ravaged, and even the pillager tower had been torn through. It was clear the jungle hadn't been the only place with tornadoes in the forecast during my little adventure. My weather deflectors clearly hadn't reached this far out. With that realization, the plan for the day took a quick pivot. I put Rusty away and got to work. I started by planting tree saplings to bring life back to the damaged land, then moved on to repairing the bridge piece by piece. Of course, had to add a weather deflector because I didn't want to have to learn the same lesson 3 times. Once the basics were restored, I couldn't help but improve things from across the lake while I was there. The project carried into day 150. I created a proper path leading from the bridge to the arena, lining it with cherry saplings. Nearby watering holes caught my eye, areas that had potential if given a little care, so I shaped the edges with stone, cleaned them up until they felt charming instead of forgotten. What started as a routine outing turned into restoration work, and by the end of the day, the farm was honestly better for it. After all the rebuilding, replanting, and repairs, it felt right to return to something familiar. The horses needed it, and honestly, so did I. So really, this time, Rusty went first, calm, focused, eager to learn. Then came Chip, and chaos erupted. Bucking, sidestepping, testing every ounce of my patience. To make things more exciting, our angry neighbors, the pillagers, decided to join in on the fun. Between dodging kicks and dodging arrows, progress was minimal. After numerous frustrating buck-offs, I called it off early and let Chip strut off victorious. In spirit, if not in skill. The next day, I began to think maybe Chip wasn't meant to be a jumper, so I shifted gears and spent the day bonding. A good grooming session, treats, and a gentle trail ride around the ridge of the valley brought out his calmer side. Turns out, he loves exploring. He just had to find his jam. So for now, adventure was the way to his heart. Day 153 arrived, and I set my sights on crafting a brand new adventure tack set for the horses, as the last one had disappeared along with one of my first horses, Bambi. I also made tack boxes in their signature colors, binding each to its horse, matchy-matchy and practical exactly how I like my horse things. At this point in the challenge, honestly, I was so over the same food every day. Chicken, potatoes, rinse and repeat. Time to spice things up and maybe pick a new hobby while I was at it. Fishing. I built a small dock by the river. Boots tried hopping in one of the boats. Looks like we've already got a little fisherman on our hands. By the end of the day, I had a proper little fishing spot. My farm's newest corner, food and relaxation. It dawned upon me, I had missed the halfway point of this challenge, so better late than ever for a celebration, right? I just spent the day soaking in farm life. I hopped on Rusty for a little show jump session, still plenty of work to do in that arena, but it was fun testing him out. Then I took Willow for a hand gallop through the fields. Calm, free, and exactly what we all needed. Today just started off normal, another round of farm chores, until I spotted something. A whole herd of horses. The first herd I'd seen in this part of the challenge. I knew it probably wasn't the best time to expand the herd, but I've been dreaming of a mule. They've got way better stats than your average donkey. No offense, Eeyore. Problem, swim horses can't be bred with vanilla donkeys. Cue me, villain of every horse movie ever, borrowing the cutest bay pate mare from the herd. Unbeknownst to me, she actually already had a foal. Sorry. I tamed her, rode her back to the farm, and after a slightly awkward matchmaking session, boom, we had the cutest mule. My first hybrid. Totally worth the moral crisis. Of course, I reunited the mare with her original baby. The next day was all about watching my little mule grow up. Easily the cutest thing on the farm. She's got her mom's spirit and Eeyore's ears, an iconic combo. I named her Winnie. My swim horses may be high maintenance divas, but Eeyore and Winnie, not so much. With them crammed into the main barn with the rest of the farm crew, I decided it was time. A cozy barn just for the mule and donkey duo. First step, clear the spot. One quick block here and there became 10, and the day vanished. By sunset, I was exhausted and my inventory was overflowing. But phase 1 was done. Somehow overnight, Winnie had fully grown and she was ready to be tamed. Pretty smooth sailing in that arena. Next up, a supply run for the new barn. Trees were chopped, stone was mined, crafting table was working overtime. I gathered everything I'd need. I missed my supervisor Pebbles. It was weird not having her around to keep me in line. Construction day, the foundation went down, main logs stacked, and the frame of the donkey and mule barn was officially up. Not very pretty yet, but it felt real. I spent the day adding the final touches to the stalls, slowly bringing them to life until night fell and an Enderman decided to watch me way too closely. I wasn't built for that fight today, so I took the hint and called it a night. Finishing touches day, hay piles, water troughs, and a few cozy details later, the barn was officially ready. I moved Eeyore and Winnie in and stood back, proud that my low maintenance duo finally had a space of their own. Another day began, and the horses were definitely looking cramped, especially the boys, all three of them squished into one pasture while Willow watched from her massive field like royalty. So I made it fair and expanded the pasture boundaries. The stallions now had a little more breathing room. I'd been dreaming of an apple orchard for a while, and let's be honest, this is a horse ranch after all, so it's about time they get a proper restaurant. I planted one right in the center of the farm by the barn and set down apple saplings from Pam's Harvest Craft, keeping it simple but purposeful. I could not wait to watch it grow, and I think the horses were even more excited than me about this new development. Come sunrise, I thought it was time to add a little bit more personality to the farm. I built an archway leading into the stables, and it instantly gave the place more presence, like you're arriving somewhere. Day 165. It was finally time to finish what I started. 2 paths down, who knows how many to go. Gravel edges, flowers, lanterns, and of course Pip and Poppy helping by stepping in the exact spots I needed to place blocks. I picked up where I left off yesterday, refining details and continuing to shape the paths into something both practical and beautiful. By evening, the network of paths felt a little more cohesive, the farm a little more connected, yet still unfinished. Someday it will be completed. And just as I was showing off my finished product thus far, creepers sure have a funny sense of humor. Today's mission, make my garden a full-on pollination paradise. I wanted bees buzzing around to speed up my crops. I have many mouths to feed after all. Naturally, this meant dodging creepers, nearly falling into a river, and getting stung more than once. Apparently I haven't learned my lesson from last time. Luckily, by nightfall, I scouted out another beehive and decided to wait for them to come out in the morning. Sunrise took its sweet time, but eventually the bees decided to make an appearance. I was pleasantly surprised to count 3 of them and immediately began the slow process of luring them home with flowers. Although 1 bee quietly dipped out when I wasn't looking, but 2 felt like a solid win. It took basically the entire day to walk them back to base. Bee herding is not for the impatient, but we eventually made it. I introduced them to my straw golem pals, set up their bee nest area, and after one last round of chasing them across the field, they finally settled in and made themselves at home. The apple orchard was thriving. The very buzzy residents were doing their thing. I named them Buzz and Fuzz, and with a little flower breeding magic, meet Tuzz, the long-lost third comrade. Yeah, I think I'm running out of names. Can you tell? With my garden officially buzzing, literally and figuratively, I decided it was time for the next big adventure, bringing bison to the ranch from the Untamed Wilds mod. For another food source, and let's be honest, they look really cool on the ranch. I grabbed Chip, my boldest adventure horse, and saddled up for what I imagined would be a quick trip. Yeah, right. Within minutes, we were galloping through forests and plains, dodging skeletons, and wondering why I thought catching a bison would be easy. A day into the search, Chip and I stumbled across a small village. The village was quiet until I noticed a stray cat. Boots had been getting lonely, so I figured, why not adopt this little wanderer? Apparently, I haven't gotten any better at taming cats from the last time because this took a while. Why do they have to be mini cheetahs? Anyways, after a few careful steps and almost all the fish I had packed for myself from my inventory, the cat was tamed. We resumed our journey at dawn. Chip, the newest addition, and I pushed deeper into dense forest in search of a meadow. On our travels, we passed through a desert biome where we promptly got caught in a sudden sandstorm that nearly blew us back to the start. Soon enough, we spotted the first bison in the distance, and beyond that, a herd grazing peacefully, completely oblivious to the chaos we were about to unleash. I waited until next morning to strike, and on day 172, it was all about trial and error. Catching a wild bison is nothing like taming a horse. I tried riding one because apparently I could do that, but little did I know, bison are extremely aggressive when they sense a threat. Before I could blink, the bison I tried to tame came for me, let out a furious charge, and suddenly Chip and I were staring down a stampede of one very angry, snorting hunk of muscle. My plan? Become the distraction. I ran and safely took high ground, retreating quickly. I soon came to the realization that leading them safely back to the ranch was impossible if I wanted to survive. Henceforth, plan B was devised. Craft traps. Heart pounding, I hurried to assemble 2 of the Untamed Wilds traps and carefully position them in the herd's path. The bison charged like a wall of fury, and then pop! I got not 1, but 2 in the traps. Surviving a bison stampede deserves a celebration. With my boxed up bison ready for transport, it was finally time to head to their new home, where they would cause far less chaos, hopefully. After a long night's travel, we were finally home. Fully expecting a very personal how dare you headbutt from a couple angry bison. To my surprise, the bison stepped out calm, contained, and almost regal. Totally worth the chaos. Feeling confident, I opened the second trap, expecting another massive bison. Instead, I got... It was our mischievous little cat friend. Somehow, I had managed to trap my own cat instead of a second bison. In the end, it worked out. I only had room for one bison in the farmyard pen anyway. I gave this sneaky little criminal a name tag, transformed him into the fluffiest ragdoll cat imaginable, and officially named him Bebop. I can't tell if Boots appreciated the company, but they seemed to tolerate each other. After the bison adventure, whom I named Thor by the way, it was time to get the horse herd looking sharp. I crafted a sleek black tack set, saddle pads, leg wraps, the works, customized to match each horse's signature color. I geared up the herd with fly masks to keep the eternal summer from driving them crazy. Thanks, weather deflector. And with everyone looking stylish and comfortable, the ranch was officially ready for action. I wanted to get back to the horse farm expansion, so I grabbed Willow and crossed the bridge to start laying the foundation for my next project, one of my biggest undertakings yet, a dressage ring. Naturally, the pillagers had other plans. My annoying neighbors never failed to keep me on my toes. This project would mean taking down the pillager outpost that had set up camp dangerously close to where my arena needed to go. I geared up and brought Phoenix into battle too, who was less than helpful but looked heroic anyway. I stealthily rode him around the outpost, noting patrol routes, spawn points, and of course, that central tower where all the chaos seemed to originate. The next thing you know, I was going for it. I dodged arrows, hid behind pumpkin scarecrows, and had a brief panic moment when a Vindicator decided I was its personal punching bag. After promptly dying, I decided to cut my losses and recoup overnight, cuddling the kids. If this was going to work, my plan was going to have to change. I decided I needed to take out the archers first, then methodically clear the perimeter. Step 1, ranged attacks. I felt like Robin Hood taking them out with arrows here, retreating behind makeshift walls whenever a pillager got too close, recouping whenever I got too low on health. Step 2, close combat. Shield up, sword swinging like I was in some medieval action movie. Phoenix, on the other hand, was just enjoying the show. Eventually, I came out victorious. So I climbed the partially ruined central tower, thanks to that tornado, setting it ablaze with flint and steel, and flattened the spawn points with slabs and water. However, as I was watching the outpost crumble victoriously, I turned around when I was met with an arrow to the face. His victory didn't last long though, because I got back out there and landed the final blow on my enemy. The pillager's reign of terror was officially over. Time to clear the land. However, I wanted to make this arena a grass ring, and unfortunately, if you don't have Silk Touch, you can't really place down grass blocks, they'll just look like dirt. So on to my next mission, which would be crafting a Silk Touch shovel. In order to do this, I first needed an enchanting table, which would require one thing I didn't have yet: obsidian. Lucky for me, on a previous adventure, I had spotted a broken nether portal not far from camp, which had exactly what I needed. I set up my station, enchanted my tools, and luckily, I got my very own Silk Touch shovel. Most of the day was spent with my nose on the grindstone, shoveling away in a nearby plain with Chip, until I had more than enough to create a perfectly flat patch for the dressage ring. Honestly, day 179 and 180 were about as mundane as it gets. But after a lot of grass placing and rearranging, it felt good knowing I had a perfect clearing worthy of an arena. That very next day, I got straight to work. Rails went up, which I had to shorten using a fence tool to make them dressage arena height. Dressage letters were crafted, and by midnight, it was officially finished. The arena looked the part, and the best part, no pillagers trying to ruin my plans. Finally, I could build in peace. Tomorrow, we'd put it to the test. Morning came, and I crafted a white saddle pad so the horses could really look clean and presentable. Willow was a dream in the ring, lifting her feet like a true pro. Chip? Well, let's just say, dressage and chaos are basically synonyms for him. Rusty, on the other hand, was surprisingly competent. Maybe the calmer twin has some hidden talent after all. With the dressage ring finally finished, I realized it was missing one crucial thing: a proper place to judge and watch the chaos. I had some extra land right next to the arena, so I decided to turn it into a small judge's booth, which quickly became a hangout area and quickly evolved into a cherry blossom gazebo. Finishing with the details, I made a place perfect for judges, spectators, or just me pretending like serious competitions go on here. Once it was done, the dressage ring finally felt truly complete. Riding the high from finishing the dressage ring, I decided why not keep pushing forward with training upgrades. Next goal, a round pen, a proper space for starting the young ones and working through the basics without distractions. I marked out a circular layout, which is way harder than it looks, guys, and started placing blocks. Simple in theory, surprisingly finicky in practice. I continued this project the next day, which was all about refining, adding the roof, and decorating the pen. I did manage to finish the roof and added lighting, a gate. By the end, I had a functional round pen ready for the next generation of horses. And just like that, the ranch took another big step forward. I might have done a little victory lap around it myself. It was finally time to test this new training spot. So I took Phoenix for a spin around the pen, just taking it all in. After our little test ride, I just knew it would become the perfect place to train any new additions to our herd. After I rode, I added some finishing touches, like a path leading up to it with shrubs and lighting, connecting the pen to the rest of the farm. Day 188 rolled around, and I caught myself thinking about how useful my cats had been around the farm. Whenever they were by my side, there wasn't a creeper in sight. So, naturally, I decided I needed more. After an early morning fishing trip, I staged a very official wedding ceremony for Bebop and Boots, officiated by yours truly and sealed with a ceremonial salmon. Moments later, a tiny kitten appeared, and my excitement instantly turned into horror. This was not a fluff ball, this was a skeletal, uncanny creature that looked like it had crawled out of the void. I panicked. Clearly, Ahmad was interfering with destiny here. Thankfully, a name tag saved the day. I signed the poor thing a proper coat. The monstrosity vanished, replaced by the smushed face, fluffy little angel I had been expecting all along. Balance restored, I named him Binksy, and just like that, the farm gained yet another adorable resident. Another day dawned, and it was all about farm chores. Sheared sheep, reduced the pig population, milked cows, said hi to Thor in the middle of creating an unlikely friendship with little Binksy, who was so tiny compared to that hunk, and just general tending of the farm. I gave Jinx a seed snack, which I think he appreciated, and Binksy, tiny little legs and all, kept pace like a shadow the entire time. Time for yet another episode of livening up the equestrian oasis. It was my last big project that I intended to accomplish. It had been hanging over me this entire challenge. We got part 2, part 3, and yes, part 4 of this project. Apparently, just decorating the paths is never that easy. It is surprisingly time-consuming, which meant more lighting tweaks and decorating, and realizing I was completely out of materials again. So also more of running back and forth between crafting and placing blocks until the sun went down. The final polishing up day arrived. By the end, the farm felt more finished, inviting, functional, and finally worthy of all the work it took to get here. It was absolutely worth it. I knew day 194, with 1 week left in the challenge, was going to be a good one when I woke up with a soggy piece of cod on my pillow, courtesy of Binksy, who was all grown up, by the way. I wanted to go for a little celebratory, we made it this far, trail ride, so I took out Chip along with the rest of the crew in tow. I just knew sunset was gonna be beautiful. That was until the sky turned storm gray. So in a bit of a panic, I made the unfortunate decision to leap off the cliffside. Chip bucked, which initiated a potentially deadly kickoff between the brothers. A bit of frantic inventory fumbling later, I finally snatched a lead. You see those 3 little hearts? Yeah, Rusty was literally 1 kick from death. Come sunrise, I gave Rusty some much-needed TLC. He'd been looking a little glum after all, and I wasn't about to let that slide. After that, I turned him out and spotted the sweetest sight. Willow quietly grazing by her late colt, Bambi's grave. Sometimes these pixel ponies feel almost alive. That moment made me forget my to-do list entirely. I spent the day just wandering the pastures, soaking in the quiet, but of course, nothing can ever go smoothly here. I was just picking poo and hustling back inside as the rain started when the nightmare happened. I slipped out of the boys' pasture and did the thing that haunts every horse owner's nightmares. I left the gate wide open. Morning chores began the next day, and I stepped out to no horses in the stallion pasture. I was beginning to panic, thinking that they had somehow despawned. My heart was sinking. Thankfully, they had not wandered far. They had discovered the gold mine of all gold mines in the horse world, the hay shed. Honestly, I was just relieved I hadn't lost any of my boys, because that would have been a very sour way to end 200 days. But it did get me thinking. My boys had each other, and ever since Bambi, Willow's only friends were the axolotls. Terrible company for a horse. So I pulled out the last of my rose feed, reunited Phoenix and Willow, and bam, a third foal was on the way. Fingers crossed it's a filly so Willow could finally have a proper companion. On to the next day, I checked in with our amazing mare with the vet check bag. Progress was looking promising. I crafted a hunter green armored blanket and halter for the new arrival, gave the soon-to-be foal a spot in the tack room, and waited anxiously, counting every tick of the Minecraft clock. The foal still hadn't arrived, so I didn't really know what to do with myself that day except play with the dogs. So I rounded up Pip and Poppy and took out the rusty old throw stick in the back of the cabinet. Poppy was an absolute beast at this. Like, seriously, total pro. While poor little Pip struggled because, well, I mean, his tiny legs just couldn't keep up. I made Poppy sit out the next few throws so Pip could actually have a try, though the stick was practically bigger than him. Dinner was eaten outside, Willow grazing nearby as I anxiously waited for the new arrival. I decided to stay up all night because there's no way I was missing this birth like I had with Rusty and Chip. As night fell, the wind howled outside the barn. Inside Willow's stall, everything was calm until it wasn't. Under the cover of the storm, the foal popped out of nowhere, and there stood before me was the cutest little foal. Only one this time, thank goodness. And guess what? We got a filly at long last. Her buckskin coat stopped me in my tracks. It looked just like Bambi, Willow's late colt, who died tragically in the previous 100 days. It felt less like a coincidence and more like a full circle moment. Now there's just one thing left. She needs a name. Comment below. I think you should decide. In all my excitement preparing for the foal when I went to bed that night, I hadn't even realized the final day of the challenge was just one sleep away. The realization dawned on me the next morning. So, to celebrate everything we'd accomplished, I took some time to just relax. I set up a little picnic hangout area on the other side of the lake, and later that day gathered all my found family. Dogs, cats, horses, and yes, even the parrots. And we shared one final sunset together in our new picnic area. I had the dream day, just soaking in all the animals, throwing sticks for the dogs, giving the horses one too many sugar cubes, with my two birds perched on my shoulders. I was truly having my Snow White moment here. The sun set slowly over the ranch, and it felt like the perfect ending to 200 days of chaos and adventure. But of course, this wasn't the last sunset. The ranch is still full of life, and the world still has so much left to throw at me. 200 days was just the beginning. 300 days is next.